Hi guys, and welcome to another session of Honest Talk About Women, where you'll learn tips, tricks and strategies on how to navigate the minefields of dating and relationships. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and also comment in the comments section. It all helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you've got a story you want to share with viewers, you can contact me on my email address listed below. Okay, let's get right into it. This one's about a playmate. Okay, so the traditional marriage laws are slowly becoming obsolete. It's too restrictive on people. It creates financial exposure to certain people. There's financial penalties. Also, the government can change legislation and make it more restrictive in terms of child support payments. So it's one of the few contracts you can enter into, and it can be changed by a third party, the government. And it's very interesting because China has just refreshed their marriage laws to make it easier to marry and harder to divorce. And I've got a video coming up on that. It's a very interesting way to try to play with human nature. Obviously, the stability of the family unit pays big dividends for society. And the same way they did the one-child policy, they're trying to do the other extreme now and encourage people to have family. And I'm not too sure whether it'll work or not, but they've got some good points in it and also some bad points. And I'll go through that in a separate video. So based on marriage law in this country, which is New Zealand, it was written in the 50s and 60s, and there was an imbalance back then between male and female. The female didn't have a lot of rights. They couldn't open a bank account. They couldn't buy a property by themselves. They weren't taken seriously. They had limitations on education and career advancement. That's all gone now. There's an equal playing field now. There's nothing holding back women, and a lot of women earn really good money. In fact, a lot of women earn more than a lot of guys. In different occupations. So there's an equal playing field out there, but you're still governed by a marriage act that relates to the 1950s and 1960s, which is semi-lopsided, but most of the rulings that come out of the family court, the judge, we've got some really good judges, family court judges in New Zealand. They are very fair and equitable in their division of assets, or in terms of custody of children. It's leaning towards more 50-50 than the old days where the woman had sole responsibility of looking after the kids. So things have changed in some ways, but it's still archaic. Like, there's a whole lot of things wrong with the Marriage Act, and I could list them, but this is not what this is about. This is a solution to relationships. So one of the things is a 2-year stand down period before you get divorced. And that's way too long, way too long. People want to get on with their life. Some want to remarry, some want to get into a new relationship, some want to start having kids because the time's ticking. Some leave town and go to another town and start a new job, and they're a new lease of life. They're a version 2.0 of themselves. And they want to start a new chapter in their life. But they've got this thing hanging over them. They can't engage in a new relationship if they want to get married, because the other one is still hanging over for 2 years, and that's inherited from the British system. The British system, they woke up to it and reduced it down to 6 months. New Zealand still got to do that. It's just not a top priority for legislators in Parliament. They've got other things to focus on. So one of Auckland's top divorce lawyers, it's a she. She's very well known. She went publicly recently stating the reasons not to marry because of the Marriage Act. So that's coming from someone on the front line who's on top of her game, who's highly sought after, her services, and she states publicly that it's too restrictive. It's too restrictive. So things need to change. China's done it. There's no reason why New Zealand can't do it. Should people want to go down that track and get married. So when you're in your 50s, it's a little bit different, right? So the kids are out of the way. You've done the marriage thing. You know what it's like. It's time for a new model, a new relationship without the restrictions of the Marriage Act. And yes, you've got to be careful, but it's like interviewing people for a job. And I've interviewed hundreds of people, and you start to analyze people very quickly. You start to build on read their character, their fingernails, the way they groom, what they're wearing, the way they speak, their teeth, their hair, their eyes, their makeup, whether they've had plastic surgery, the whole works. It's interesting because I used to employ a lot of young kids, mostly girls, who are 16, 17, 18, and they had the impressive CV, they talk the talk, and you gave them a broom and say, can you sweep the floor, please? And some of them just took the broom and used two hands and put some vigor into it. Others didn't know how to use a broom. Do you hold it this way, Scott? Or some of them just held the broom handle with one hand and the other hand on their hip, as though they're doing it in slow motion. So it speaks volumes, absolutely volumes. So it's the same as finding a woman who wants to be your playmate. So some say it's friends with benefits. I call it a playmate. Someone who doesn't want to get married and doesn't want to have kids. And that's exactly what I'm in at the moment. Doesn't want to live together, doesn't want kids, doesn't want to be married. She's got her house. She's got her separate finances. I've got my house, separate finances. We meet up 2, 3, 4 nights a week at one of our places, stay over. Great physical interactions, and we do road trips together, and we have a similar interest. So we just love road trips. So, going to the West Coast rustic beaches or the East Coast with white sand, get into the forest, doing Airbnbs, going hiking. We just love the outdoors, and we're doing it for 6 months now, and it's going well, and there's simplicity in a relationship. So when you have two people living in a bedroom, using the same kitchen, the same shower, whatever, personal space can get encroached upon. People have different styles of doing things. And everyone's got their own style, and some people are accustomed to it and they just want to run with it. And having that personal space of your own house, your way of doing things, your man cave, the bathroom the way you like it, with the tiles that you like on the wall, with the glass panels, the frost-free mirror that you use with your hand to turn on, just little things like that, little gadgets that you like yourself. And she's got her own space. She runs her kitchen the way she wants it. Every time I go over there, I offer to help her make a meal, and she goes, my kitchen, my rules, Scott. Go lie on the bed or do a YouTube, watch YouTube, which I usually do. That's my main source of news. She doesn't want me in the kitchen. And same as when she comes over to my house, there's only one cook in the kitchen, and I can whack things through quite quickly, and then we sit down and have a meal. So people like to do things in their own way, and she's also drama-free, okay? So she'd been married for 13 years, doesn't want to get married again, doesn't want to have kids, likes her own house, likes her own space. That's the sort of woman you want in your 50s, no headaches. So when I was dating some time back now, you've got to run with a woman who's semi or almost drama free. Okay, so people do have certain dramas, minor dramas, but I remember dating one woman who was telling me about her 20-year-old adult son who spends 20 hours a day gaming and does his 2-minute noodles. And that was just a massive red flag. You're walking into someone else's issues, someone else's headaches, and it would only be a matter of time before she passed that over to you, put that on your lap, and get you involved in the decision making around her 20-year-old son who appears from the outside to be unmotivated. I have my own way of doing cold turkey with kids who gone off the rails. I'm lucky I've got 2 kids I spent a lot of time with in the early years to give that stability. And they've got confidence, they've got ambition, and they've got career paths. So they're low headache people. And when it comes to weekends, they're mostly doing their own thing. And I'm doing a road trip, leaving town and getting out into the bush or out to the country, or doing a remote Airbnb or doing glamping, which is, I like that sort of stuff, and she loves it too. So when selecting a playmate, guys, you've got to have similar interests and a similar stage in life. So you've got to tick off those big boxes. Does she want to have kids? Because there are articles of people who have kids in their 50s and 60s, and I just shake my head. What the hell are they thinking? Because bringing up kids is this huge effort. It's a commitment. You've got to put yourself second and the kids first. And I'm not too sure whether a lot of people can do that, especially in their 50s and 60s. So you got to get those things ticked off with her up front and be upfront about it. And I met a guy on my soccer team the other day. He's 49. He's a great guy. He's come out of 2 marriages. He's back dating on Tinder. and he said, Scott, every woman I want to meet wants to have babies. And he's got 5 kids, 2 sets, 1 3 and 1 2, from each of the marriages. And I'd hate to think of his child support payments because all the kids are between the ages of 5 and 14. So I offered him some tips. Don't know whether he took them or not, but he's got a high sexual market value, good looking, and he can pick and choose. So I told him about simplicity and no more kids. So that's that. Also, you don't want a nurse with a purse if you're a guy who's in your 50s. There's going to be health issues around the track. If you look after your body, you work out of the gym, you eat well, you don't have your gut, you're fit and healthy, you have a reduced incidence of health issues. But there's a lot of people that start to have health issues. Certain things start to wear out, and you've got to make sure you're not looking for a nurse with a purse who can look after you in your old age, because a lot of guys do that. And a classic example is my auntie, who's in a gated community. She is has a boyfriend, and he's quite elderly, and she's quite elderly, and he's starting to have massive health issues. And she said, I don't want to be your primary caregiver. You need to get your daughter involved, who just lives around the corner. She's got to take more responsibility, because the last thing you want to do is spend a huge amount of time at a hospital or with someone who's got medical issues. You've got to be quite independent and try and manage your health the best way you can. So the best thing about a Playmate is separation of finances. Okay, so it's just simple. There's no end of the month balancing the checkbook because one party's overspending and buying a huge amount of crap. Always amazes me some people that think there's a money tree out the back that pays off the Visa each month, and when they're given a credit card they just go out and spend big time, and the amount of crap they buy just keeps the self-storage container industry in business. Or you see them keep popping up around town, storage facilities. In fact, I've got a good friend whose garage is clogged up with crap, and he's got 4 storage containers, and he parks his expensive European car out in the driveway. And every time you go to his house and you go into his garage, it's just crap galore. You know, a 1993 dot matrix printer, a 1988 fax machine. I said, mate, throw all this crap out. How can you live like this? Just throw it out. And he goes, oh, it all means something to me, Scott. That fax machine was my first fax machine, and I saved up money for that. And this dot matrix was my first printer in my office. Things change. If you don't use it, throw it out. Anyway, getting back to a Playmate, I think a Playmate is the way to go in your 50s. It gives you simplicity. You're not governed by the Marriage Act. And you're both adults and both professional. And you like your excitement. You like your date nights, 3 or 4 nights a week with the stayovers, and the physical interaction is superb. But you don't have that personal space encroachment issues that you have when living together. Because living in the same bed together on a permanent basis can cause headaches. Certain people have different sleep patterns. Some get up at 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, like myself. That's just my body clock. First thing I want to do is check the international news, grab my phone, try and be as considerate as possible. But the other extreme is you having a partner, girlfriend, wife who's a night owl that comes to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, and before she winds down, she does some videos on her iPad to about 4 in the morning. And it just doesn't work. You can't have people with their gadgets out in bed. I've always followed the 10 to 6 rule, and I try to enforce that. But living by myself, you can do whatever you want. It's great. So that's my advice for guys that have been around the loop. They've been in a marriage. It hasn't worked. They've moved on in life. They've got their own house. They don't want to be exposed to the Marriage Act. They want simplicity, but they want the physical interaction where they can go away with people, or go away with a girlfriend, or turn up to family events with a girlfriend, and it works just beautifully because you're really eager to see each other because you're only doing it 3 or 4 times a week. And there's excitement there, and there's role plays you can play, and I won't go too much into that, but it's exciting. So I strongly advise the Playmate mode going forward for those that don't want to get married, don't want any more kids. So that's it for today, guys. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, comment in the comment section. If you want the book Alpha Dating, it's a great buy, can be in your inbox in seconds from Amazon Kindle. Do purchase it. Outline all the green and red flags that I should have known when I first started out, and it adds value to you. Until next time, take care.